Is a picture really worth 1,000 words? Yes. When I was younger, I'd probably say that that was just a saying. It's not true. But as I got older and I learned more about the world and about art in general, I think it is true. I think you grow appreciation from art and photography when you're given more information about it. In any picture, I can easily talk about color theory, the position of people, things such as which way they're facing. There's so much to discuss in any picture that you can talk forever and ever about it. And depending on who you speak with, changes, and there's a discussion there of how you perceive an image versus how they perceive an image. We'll start with this photo. And while it's here for you, it's in front of me. This is a photo of a woman during the Great Depression, and context is everything. If you don't know what's going on, it takes away a whole layer to the picture. This is a woman during the Great Depression. At the time, they didn't have colored photography, but I think even then it would be a great decision to have it be black and white. Her children are hiding behind her. I think she's holding a child in her hands, but it might just be a blanket. The way she looks is bleak. You can see the wrinkles on her face. Her eyes are squinting like she can't see that well. You can tell her clothes are old and torn from the way the sleeve is on her arm. Her hands are really bony, like she doesn't have enough food. Her kids as well, you can tell the one on the right, there's holes in that child's clothing. What does the fact that the kids don't look at us tell us? How about the way she's looking off into the distance? Do we think she's looking for hope or despair? Or do we think that maybe she can't even face people because of what the world's come to? I like that there's no color. I like that it shows kind of just how dreary the world has become for her. Once again, colored pictures weren't an option at the time, but I still think it does a lot for the photograph. And I want to point out that that's just the surface. There's so much more we could talk about. But as I give examples, I'm just kind of doing a little bit because I ask questions and those can be delved into. How about this photograph? It's colored. This is a soldier playing a piano in a destroyed woods. This is actually a Russian soldier who knew piano growing up. In a destroyed town, finds this in the rubble and starts playing. I love the color here. I love that everything is cool toned except the piano. The piano is warm toned, as if it's the only happiness in this photo. I love that everything looks kind of destroyed and it's rubble in the background, but it's out of focus. I love how preserved that piano is. What does that say about art in the world? We often talk that art is the first thing to be done away with when someone's trying to take over. So how does art influence us? How does music influence us? The soldier didn't put his gun down, he put it just behind him. Why? Even though he's doing this, does he think that he's still at risk of being attacked and needs to be ready? Or maybe he just isn't allowed to, and what does that say about the regime he's in? That he can't put his gun down even for a second. Here's our next photo. I love this. It's so beautiful. It really stood out to me when I first saw it. It reminds me a lot of the places I grew up in. I grew up driving through the desert, and there was rocky places like this. It was all volcanic. And I don't think this is volcanic, but this seems like it's a desert to me. It's not weathered a lot, so maybe there isn't a lot of wind, but there's lots of rocks. I love how the clouds are low in the mountains. Now, I don't know much about clouds, but I think that tells you what type of clouds it is. It's low. I think it's interesting that they framed it right where the two mountains meet at their lowest point, and that there's sun coming down into it. Once again, I don't know the context of this, so that's a whole other layer I can't discuss, but I still think it's a beautiful piece. And this is my final photo. I think these are all really good examples of there's so much to discuss. And like I said, I'm just scratching the surface, but there's so much to talk about with them. You can discuss so many things. Like, something that stood out to me in this is that the reflections could have been something other than the soldiers. They could have made it who they were when they grew up, but now it seems like this is all they've become. This is all they know. The further away the soldiers get, the more their reflections are blurred. It feels like a sense of dread, like they're walking off to their death. Isn't that strange? How do I get that feeling? You don't have to know a lot about art to appreciate it. I'm not an artist. I couldn't tell you a lot. I couldn't tell you things like focusing, how I want things focused, I don't know. Or framed, or any of those things. But I appreciate it because someone else put the effort into looking into those things. It's always interesting to see a piece and look at it again and again and see the different things you didn't notice, or to look at it from a different perspective, or to look at it with someone else because they see it differently. And those differences are what makes pictures so amazing, because it isn't a set number of words like an essay. So you could talk forever about them, and pictures can end up with well over 1,000 words to describe them.